Hi, my name is Michelle and welcome to my channel. This channel is about various aspects of raising a child with special needs, and today I'd like to share with you my top 10 tips for flying with a child with special medical needs. So to give you a bit of background, I have a 4-year-old son with cerebral palsy. He also has epilepsy and some food allergies. And when he was about 20 months old, my husband, son, and I moved from the United States to the Netherlands. We lived in the Netherlands for 3 years, and we just recently moved back to the United States. While we were over in the Netherlands, we flew back to the United States 2 times, and we also flew within Europe a couple of times. So I'm fairly experienced with flying with a child with special medical needs, and I'd like to share with you what I've learned. Let's go ahead and get started. Tip number 1 is to get the okay from your child's doctor for him or her to fly. So if you have any concerns about the safety of your child flying due to their medical conditions, then you will definitely want to seek a doctor's advice, and I would recommend doing this at least a week before departure. The earlier the better, really, so that you can develop any necessary plans. You'll want to ask whether it's okay for your child to fly and any special precautions you might need to take. You'll also want to write up any emergency medical plans. For example, if your child has epilepsy, then you'll want to know, if my child has a seizure, then this is exactly what I need to do. You can write that plan together with your child's doctor to make sure that you are comfortable and able to keep your child safe. Tip number 2 is to take inventory of your child's daily and emergency medications. And I suggest doing this about a week before departure. You'll want to take a look at your child's medication and determine if you have enough medication for the duration of the trip, plus a few extra days in case of delays. You'll also want to look at the expiration date of the medications. Is that expiration date for after you're scheduled to return? If the answer to either of these questions is no, then obviously you'll want to go ahead and order more medication. Tip number 3 is to prepare a folder of important medical documents. So I have this folder. It has 4 different pockets. So there's one where I keep my son's allergy information. Here's another pocket where I keep his diet information. Here is a pocket for his epilepsy information, and here is a pocket for image reports. And then at the back there is a zipper bag where I keep CDs of important images. I got this folder at a HEMA in the Netherlands, but you can probably also get something similar at like a Target or a Staples in the US. I only keep the most important medical documents in it. So for example, any documents that indicate my son's need for a certain medication that we're bringing on the trip, and also anything that would be important for doctors to know in case of a medical emergency. I take this folder with me whenever I travel with my son. He has in fact had some medical emergencies when we've been traveling, so I've been really glad that I have this folder. Tip number 4 is to check the airline's policies on bringing medical equipment on board. So if your child uses any special medical equipment, check the airline's website to see what can you bring on board and what would you need to check at the gate. If it's not clear from their website, you can of course always contact the airline. In our case, my son wears ankle-foot orthoses on both feet, and he's been wearing them for about 2 years now, and we've never had a problem with them when flying. In fact, he has always been allowed to just wear them when walking through security, along with his shoes. Tip number 5 is to plan meals and snacks. So if your child has any dietary restrictions, then you may need to call the airline to order a special meal for your child. For example, a dairy-free meal. In my experience, I've needed to do this at least 24 hours in advance of departure, but you can just check the website of the airline you'll be flying to find out what their policies are on that. Special meal options will be limited, so you may end up needing to bring your child's meal, which is what I do for my son. I've been bringing things like jars of baked beans, which I'm not really sure if those are available in the US, but they were in the Netherlands. And I've also brought things like a grilled cheese sandwich that I've made in advance, bananas, raisins, chips, plus lots of snacks. I try to bring enough food to last the duration of the trip from the time we leave home to the time we reach the destination, plus some extra, because I'm never quite sure if the food that is served on the flight will be safe for my son, or if the food that's available at the airport will be safe for my son. So I want to make sure that we have plenty of food. So if your child has a peanut allergy, sometimes you can go on the website of the airline you're flying and notify the airline that your child has a peanut allergy. I suggest doing this only if you want the airline to take any special precautions, like not giving any peanuts to anyone on the flight, because in my experience, when I've told the airline in advance that my son has a peanut allergy, then after my family boarded the plane, flight attendants would come up to us and start asking us questions about his peanut allergy, like what his symptoms are and what special precautions they need to take. And we don't really need them to take any special precautions. So my husband and I have decided to no longer notify the airline in advance. Now my husband and I just seat our son in between the two of us, and we wipe down the armrests and the tray and the window to just make sure everything is clean and hopefully free of allergens. And we avoid eating any of our son's allergens. And for us, that is sufficient. Tip number 6 is if your child requires any liquid medication or liquid nutrition, then bring proof of your child's need for that. This, I believe, will help you go through security more smoothly. As proof, I usually bring a prescription bottle or prescription box with the label from the pharmacy on it that contains my child's name. And I also usually bring my son's medical records that indicate his need for that medication. I've never had a problem bringing my son's liquid epilepsy medication with us on trips in my carry-on. I have only been asked for proof that he needs the medication one time, but I was really glad that I had that proof. Tip number 7 is if you are traveling to a foreign country, then look up that country's phone number for medical emergencies. In other words, look up their version of 911 because it's not the same in all countries. In the Netherlands, it was 112. So you will definitely want to look up that information and write it down in a place where you'll remember it or store it on your phone. Tip number 8 is to print out any itineraries, reservations, and directions to important places prior to your trip. So this would include the flight itinerary, reservations for accommodations or a rental car, and directions to your accommodations and any other important places like grocery store or a hospital. I know from experience that it's a good idea to have printouts of these things just in case your internet is not working at your destination. As I mentioned, my son has food allergies and that sometimes makes eating out difficult for my family. So my plan for the first night was to cook dinner at the apartment that we were going to be staying at. So we would get to the apartment, I'd look online for a grocery store, we'd go to the grocery store and then come back and cook dinner. But we ended up arriving at the apartment like around dinner time, and we soon discovered that the Wi-Fi wasn't working. So we ended up just going outside and kind of wandering around looking for a grocery store or restaurant that would have safe food for our son to eat, and that was stressful, to be honest. So from that trip, I've learned my lesson. I've learned that I really should have printouts of directions to any important places prior to departing for the trip. and also bring enough snacks to last longer than you think you will need them. Tip number 9 is to get to the airport plenty early. So a general rule of thumb is to get to the airport at least 2 hours prior to a domestic flight and at least 3 hours prior to an international flight. So I think this rule is important for anyone, but it's especially important for families with children with special medical needs, because sometimes it can take a bit longer to go through security when you have liquid nutrition, liquid medications, or special medical equipment. So just keep that in mind when you are getting to the airport. Tip number 10 is to have a nice trip. I definitely believe that with a good amount of preparation, you can have a safe, smooth, and enjoyable journey with your child with special medical needs. I hope you found these tips useful. Maybe you'll put some of them to use this summer. If you did, please click the thumbs up sign and please consider subscribing. Thank you for watching. Bye.